Hi, Daryl Bars here for ThatChannel, and I have the honor of two notable guests. We're going to talk about learning a second language, and I have experts Judy Thompson and Anesh Daya here, and we're going to figure out what's wrong with, I guess, the existing systems of learning language and how to make it better, right?
Absolutely. No,
That's
thank
it.
you
Yeah.
so much for having us on, and it's great to be interviewed for the first time by
Yeah,
yourself. So, yeah, my name is Anesh Daya, founder of On the Spot Language,
Mhm.
where we take the classroom outside into the real world through our experiential language learning program that I started 10 years ago. And I'm happy and honored to be here with Judy Thompson. You can introduce
Thank you
yourself.
very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have Thompson Language Center, which was born of the plight of ESL students who study
Mhm.
English in school, English lessons, and at the end of which they have no functionality, specifically in speaking. They can't speak English confidently. It almost doesn't matter how long they sit in school.
So even if they're
So I fixed that.
yeah, you fixed that. Okay.
Fixed.
Even people in Toronto with a necessity, they're still not learning the language.
Well, lots of times in Toronto, they're birds of a feather. So
Uh-huh.
they can, an Italian grandma can live here her whole life and never
Right.
encounter.
Mhm.
So they can find their communities and never. Yeah, you're right.
And how did you two meet? Like, what was that about?
Yeah, so being an edupreneur, as I call myself
Okay.
these days,
Right.
I started, 10 years ago,
Open for
my own
business.
business,
Yeah,
right?
there you go.
I won't go there.
Won't go there.
Yeah, and so, a way of reaching out to other like-minded people who aren't necessarily, in Toronto is just online.
Right.
So I started, I made a few videos about on-the-spot language and my students out there, showing what we do. So I'm like, okay, let me reach out to specific people who are highly respected in the industry and see if their take on what I'm doing. And if I can get them to say something good about me, I can go from the small edupreneur to the other people, like, oh, so what is that guy doing?
Right.
And so one day I reached out to Judy on LinkedIn, and then sparks started flying.
That's true. So he sent one of those little videos. You specifically asked, do you know a program like mine?
Right.
And the answer was yes. English Out There in London, England,
Okay.
Trafalgar Square. Jason West had been working for, I don't know if he still does it, but it worked really, really well. And it was experiential. It was take them out on the
Right.
street and coach them for successful experience. But when I looked at his videos, I thought, I totally see how this can work. And so I supported it, really supported it. And then Anesh said, you live in Niagara Falls, I live in Toronto, we should get together. And when we got together, then sparks flew.
Oh,
Then,
right.
we had similar experiences of the education system. We had similar theories about what to do about it. We started our own company, so we had a lot in common. And that leads right to disruptive education, isn't it?
Right.
Because we
Absolutely.
began to suspect we're probably not the only two who think this way and have come up with solutions.
Right.
And
So what's wrong with the way second language learning is taught then in the
oh,
schools?
who wants to
Oh
start?
boy.
Let's go. Let's go.
Well, let's start with so I've actually been in the industry for over 18 years. And having learned several languages, as an adult and growing up, and having lived in other countries,
Right.
I understand how I've best learned, similar like with you yourself
so
with
I
Spanish,
learned
right?
Spanish by
Right.
doing, right?
Yeah.
So we've all figured this out, how we best learn, obviously through motivation and our passions, our interests, whatever it is. But, I was working for a language school for 5 years as a head teacher, and then they let me go.
You're just too radical or what?
No, quite the opposite. Well, no, yeah, I was too radical, right? I had all these great ideas and everything. Like, you know what? You don't have a university degree.
Ah.
The guy speaks 7 languages.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
way that the systems love the systems.
Yes.
The systems
So
feed on the
through the
Yeah, yeah,
governing board, like,
exactly.
well, you have your TESOL certificate, but you don't have a university
Right.
degree, so you can no longer work here. I'm like, huh. So here I am, unemployed, trying to figure out where does my future lie.
Right.
I said, well, I've been talking about doing my own thing for years, but this gave me the, the kick in the butt to be
Okay.
able to get it going, and said, you know what? Students are having a great time in the classroom, but every time I would take them out on an after-school activity,
Right.
they couldn't functionally use anything that I just finished teaching them. I'm just like, what's wrong here?
So is it shyness or what is this?
Well, it was a shy. They weren't learning any practical real life English, and they weren't being coached on how to learn a language.
Or strategies, or failing, or it's that glass wall, just break through.
Okay.
And
So
then
the big thing
and then
is-
you're okay.
They didn't have really the tools
Right.
to be able to functionally apply their language learning out into the real world.
They had the wrong tools.
The wrong
So
tools.
So the wrong
right?
tools are
Grammar,
Grammar,
and
of course, yes.
school infuses them with fear that if they make a grammar mistake,
Right.
or there's a problem with their accent, that they paralyze them.
Exactly.
And it's tragically neither of those are even
Right.
issues.
So we have to throw away the grammar books, build confidence, and just get out there.
Well,
and do
we
it.
have to separate
Right.
writing from speaking, and that's what's never been done successfully. So that's what I noticed working for my language school plum job. Language school is they couldn't speak at the end, so their reading and writing skills improved, and their speaking never did. So I fixed it, addressed it, and fixed it. But I noticed reading and writing in English and listening and speaking are different because the alphabet doesn't work. So there's 40 sounds in English, 26 letters.
Right.
It's a mess.
Right.
It's been a mess for a long time.
Can you give a quick description of the history of English in a brief way
Oh, you
that you
love
can?
that.
Yeah, it's quite brilliant if you think about the
Well,
history
it's
of.
got so many derivations. That's part of the problem.
Well,
yeah.
it's essentially German, Norse, and French, and
Right.
English was spoken for 1,000 years, and languages are spoken first, and then they write them down. But every other language, when they go to write them down, they pick a symbol that represents a sound and write them down. So there's the alphabet is the access
Right.
to writing. So if you can read it, you know what it said. None of that happened in English.
Right.
So William Caxton, whatever it was, 1476, he just took the nearest alphabet. He goes, and he grabbed the Roman alphabet. This will do. And he just jammed English into it.
Right.
And spelling has always been
Yeah,
random.
spelling. Yeah. I mean,
And schools never said that. They say crazy things. Sound it out. You can't sound it out.
yeah. you
Don't
can't sound
guess.
that. I mean, there's things.
You must guess.
Right. There's things to learn. Like laugh should be spelled LAF, but it's spelled LAUGH. So I mean, we learn the GH sounds, do this and da 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 da. But it's too complicated. I mean, only Spanish
It's
works.
detailed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spanish is the only language where you actually pronounce every letter, and it's simple.
Every language is simple except English. Every language makes sense except English. So the students are coming with software, and then they own it. They internalize it. That it must be me. I'm stupid because I don't get I don't get that.
Right.
Sit that I get Japanese. So their first language is the filter that they learn the second language through, which is how you can mimic an accent in seconds. You pick up the pattern.
Right.
Non-native speakers can mimic English speakers too, or know right away, oh, you're American is what I get. You're
Right.
American. But so what's the same? The other end of that telescope is what's the same, that you can understand somebody in Scotland, you can understand somebody from Australia. There's something core the same about English, that all Englishes are intelligible in spite of accents, in spite of different words, garbage, trash, rubbish, in spite of different expressions. You got to get an ear for a Highlander,
Right.
but it takes a day. And
Okay.
then you know what he's saying. What's that's the same?
Right. So
And
what
nobody teaches that.
So what's your strategy then? Are we going to go right into that? What's the trick?
The trick,
Yeah.
the number one trick, if you're sitting beside somebody on a train somewhere and they say, "You're American, will you help me with my English?" And you say yes, and then you don't know what to do. They need word stress. That's it. It's a
Word stress.
So banana is not a word. Banana is not a word. Banana is not a word. It's banana, and there's no
Reason why.
flexibility.
Right.
And the rules are so simple. There's one and only one most important syllable in any word. And if you hit it, there's intelligibility. And if you don't, we can't even guess.
Right.
So native speakers English is not sound dependent. So we have infinite tolerance for lisps and accents and sound substitution. The meeting's on Wednesday. Nobody goes, oh, I don't know what day that is.
Right.
Yeah, there's no meaning lost. We don't even hear mistakes in individual sounds. We don't hear grammar mistakes either. We only hear if the stress syllable's there. So you can make a huge difference. Word stress and pausing, you can make a difference for a billion people in India in about 20 minutes.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how long they read and write, and their spelling's better than mine, and that unintelligibility feature of Arabic, East Indians, Asians, is they come from sound-based languages, and this isn't.
So how are you going to improve word stress? Because you used the word Wednesday, and I was thinking
Wednesday.
about this. So we could be saying we, Danes, they, and then you wouldn't even know what I'm talking about.
No.
So
No.
how do we
We
work on fixing that stress?
Oh,
What's the solution?
If the learner doesn't have it in their first language, they can't even hear it. So they can hear a teacher, pronunciation is great, but they can't mimic it because they don't know what the core thing is. And it's an elastic band, and I always have one. There's probably one in my purse.
Okay.
So it's banana. And then when they see it, then they can hear it. So you use another sense. Congratulations. And then it's only one. So that's the pattern. And then they go, oh, I can hear it now. But
You mean so you would use an elastic band to...
for their name, like it's Judy. It's not Judy. It's not Judy. The stress syllable is so important. If the rest of the word isn't there, there's no meaning lost. Just a sec, bro, Jude. I turn my head when somebody says Jude. It's half a syllable.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the number one.
We were talking about pausing and stress syllables and how to, Russell Peters has this great things like Canadians talk like donkeys, like, what? Get out. No way. Really? And students aren't even aware that like, we have an accent. I mean, yeah, we do have an accent. They're up and down. And it's actually part of our program, which is like one of the most difficult days for students, is they have to go on the streets of Toronto. Excuse me, I'm an international student studying English in Toronto, and part of my homework is to ask people to teach me one simple joke in English, which is tough in any language, right? And it's like, for example, someone said, and this one girl, she loved this joke. She was actually on the show and she did the joke with you. It's like, why shouldn't you give Elsa a balloon? Because she'll let it go. And everyone on the street's laughing, right? But the timing to be able to produce that, why shouldn't you give Elsa a balloon? Because she'll let it go. There's when to pause, how to produce that. And to do it with the body language like that and sing like...
That's fluency.
Right.
That's not conversation. That's a whole different game.
Absolutely.
And fluency's abstract.
Right.
So they don't need that on the bus the first day. But they sure need it. If they're an international student living in an English-speaking culture, they need fluency. So there's 3 earmarks of conversation and 3 earmarks of fluency.
Right. So in Canada here we have quite a few crises of language. Then we have people trying to learn French in school and only learning, like, all I can think of is conjugate. That's conjugating verbs nonstop. And it's like, it's crazy. So, you walk out of high school, English high school, you don't really know how to speak French after 4 or 5 years. And now we have the crisis where there's so many people coming in needing to learn English, and you're saying they're not learning it fast enough and they're afraid to speak
effectively.
it.
They're not learning it effectively.
Okay.
It's about details. They're learning a lot of details, and the brain doesn't work that way. And you just gave a perfect example. So the human brain is a pattern-seeking, meaning-making machine. So it's looking for what's always true, what's always true, what's always true. So that stress example is, it's always true. There's no exceptions. So as soon as you're using a program, but this is an exception and that's an exception, students can't actually manage that. And they can't manage it on the fly. And conversation is so fleeting. So what are the skills that they can, and innuendo and body language, like the elements that all work together to make conversation work. You can't conjugate a verb in there.
So when you mention, about newcomers, this is my whole mandate right now. I've been doing this with international students who are here for short term and they go back to their country. And well, everything I hear on the news and everything, language is the biggest barrier. Language is the biggest barrier they're facing into integration, to getting that job. It's just the language, the way it's been taught and how it's been, it continues to be taught in a traditional sit-down based classroom. They're getting a year of free classes to take, and they're still walking with, this is a pen. And they still don't know how to, get out and connect and network with people. exactly what our students do every day.
I think students should know that they can speak English today. So school has this, when you have all this ridiculous amount of information, and it's a false god, then you'll be able to, and the tragedy is
Right.
that they can't. So when can they? And it's today, because the elements of conversation are driven by context, word stress, body language, listening, and strategies. Grammar isn't even in it. So just like Anesh's program does, if they start having successful conversations right away, then they learn by doing it, which is the
Right.
only way. It's like reading about playing the guitar. You can read about it forever, but a guitar teacher has you hold that thing and play it
Right.
the first day.
For sure.
So you got to play that language from the first day,
All right.
with care. Like you're taking care of them.
So all we would need in the school system, I guess, because we don't need like hundreds of ESL students roaming the streets, but they could just be partnered up with students in the school who speak and sort of working that way. Is that
Oh,
the
that would
strategy?
that would be great. I used to take mine to the mall, and the shopkeepers, whatever, at the bay would just see us coming, and then they were ready, and they had some homework to do, and everyone was enrolled in a successful
Right.
engagement, and they're sweating, they're so nervous, and then people understand you.
Right.
And that's all they need to know. Yes, you could make yourself understood, and then they're on their way. Then they'll talk to their neighbor, and then they'll. It's freedom to make a mistake.
Now the government does want students to pass a literacy test, right? So what are you thinking of that problem? Because I don't see it necessarily as a problem. I mean, if you become literate quicker through your strategy, then you'll do better on the test. One would think anyway.
Well,
But,
literacy, our government and English-speaking culture, it's the opposite side of the coin. So, native English-speaking children can speak before they go to school. So
Right.
their struggle is with reading and writing. So they talk about reading and writing literacy, and the statistics for that are horrible. So 40% of native speakers in any English-speaking country graduate from high school functionally illiterate. Doesn't matter if it's Australia. And so the problem is English, and it's unaddressed that it's English. Other languages don't have the dyslexic. Why are our dyslexic numbers 3 times languages that make sense?
But okay,
It
just-
isn't the child, it's the
Right.
language and the way we teach it. So we gear our government, gears tests to prove that they're doing it. So it isn't the government or the school that's going to provides an accurate literacy
Right.
test. It's employment offices. They'll tell you exactly how many people are functionally illiterate. Is the employment in those guys?
Okay, so what kind of do you want to work with the ministry at all, or do you want to stay away from the Ministry of Education, or what kind of initiatives do you want to?
Well, that's
see?
where I'm at now. So
Yeah.
being a for-profit business for the last 10 years,
Right.
and a lot of people in my community at the Center for Social Innovation, they're like, Anesh, the newcomers need this. I'm like, they don't have any money to take my program. If I could get funding from the government, but
Right.
I'm like a small fish in this large ocean of people who are getting these grants from the government. So I've been really fortunate as of recently to get into the ear of some of these, government settlement agencies.
Okay.
And they're like, we see the effectiveness of your program in terms of getting your students out there, connecting with people. Let's do this with some of our newcomers
Okay.
to get into this, experiential language learning system. And so, it's now just starting now where we may be piloting this with newcomers to see the effectiveness. Is it going to help them get that job? Is it going to help them feel more, assimilated into the culture in the city, their neighborhoods? Are they going to get to know, like our students know the local bakery, the banker, they go to the supermarket, like what aisle would I find? Like they're all doing this. We have on-the-spot language-friendly restaurants and stores. They're like, oh, you're one of those on-the-spotter students. Okay, great. Come on. And they know that, they're in a language-friendly learning zone, or they're going to be with other people.
So you vetted a whole bunch of establishments that.
Well, we've been doing this for 10 years, right?
So they
And
know
the
you,
average
right.
student speaks to roughly 500 strangers a month.
Right.
That's a lot of interactions, So if we can get into the ear of some of these settlement agencies and get this kind of system embedded into the overarching, way English is taught, great.
I think that speaks to the beginning when we had a conversation, and then we started the Disruptive Education Conference and made a forum, really, a platform for like-minded people to show up. And a whole bunch of people showed up, and they all had effective programs. And what I was looking at from that was what are the same. So we didn't all fall in line behind, oh, that's the way to go. What are the similarities in all of them? And they jumped right to the top. This is the same in all of them, which is a great assessment. This is the same in all of them, student autonomy. This is the same in all of them, accountability from the school and the teacher. All those things are missing from traditional education. And it turns into coaching. It's the difference between teaching and delivering a bunch of information that's memorized and repeated and forgotten, or coaching, which is transformation, actually transforming their skills. So that conversation is making it clearer and clearer.
And this was a conference called Disruptive.
We've had a couple. Disruptive Education.
Yeah. So initially when we
Conference.
got together, I'm like, well, how do we get other people like us together?
Is there anybody else like us? There's a lot like us, really frustrated with the system and committed to making a difference, which in many cases costs you your paycheck. You can make a difference, or you can get out.
Or you can work,
or you can start your own company.
Possibly
which
within the system
we've-
too, depends
not
how
yet.
tight the system is.
Not yet. In a left-handed way, I've also developed a program for teaching children to read, because so many of those fall through the cracks, and a high % of the incarcerated people in jail, and they start streaming them for grade 3. If they have trouble reading. 65% of the incarcerated can't read. So I went around the other way, and 85 recidivist rate. So I went to the government to say, if I can fix the reading and they don't come back, look how much money that would save you. And then they opened the door a little bit. That's now you're talking my language. How can I save some money?
Okay.
Yeah, but that doesn't help.
So, yeah, it is finding a way into the door behind all the red tape and everything else.
The way we've always done it, which is.
And you don't want to try to get into the big door and say, look, here's flaws in the system that could be improved by my methodology.
I was in the big door. Yeah.
So I was in the big door, and I didn't find it that intimidating, but
It wasn't intimidating. It was just dead wrong and closed to flexibility. Yeah. I don't know how much time we have.
No, the good thing for me at the moment, when you're talking about, how do you get this into the systems, I have other language schools approaching me saying, we can't do what you do. We understand the value of an experiential language component. How could we embed your methodology into our system, right? So there are possibilities out there for sure.
The ultimate irony was the board of education that I was working for made the first mass order of my book.
English is Stupid.
English is Stupid.
Okay.
Yeah. This is an old edition. English is Stupid students are not. English is Stupid flies in English-speaking countries because they're confronted daily with, oh, that's stupid, that's stupid. But if it's a foreign language and they've paid a lot of money to learn it, they don't like you calling it stupid. So we did modify the title for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to say anything these days. Somebody getting offended, but so English is problematic. What did it end up being?
They say English is Stupid students are not. So English is stupid because letters don't represent sounds. So you can't speak it from reading it. Yeah, and you can't read it if you speak it without special training that school totally ignores.
And how about using video and things like that, where people are watching, let's say, like a lot of people say, they learn Spanish by watching the telenovelas kind of thing. You're watching that and you pick up on that.
We talked, just quickly said, listening is approximately 30% of the weight. You just like a baby, you have to listen to it before you understand it. And adults, we want to understand it first. We want to control everything.
Right.
And if you just bathe them in English, some magic day, or if they watch a video, watch the same one, a really short one over and over. The first time they hear it, they might understand 20%. But the fourth time, it's 60, 70, 80%. So small pieces over and over again is more effective.
If you go to our Instagram page, I've got a whole bunch of students on there. And usually when you see like, YouTube videos, like the native English speakers just talking.
Right.
This is how you do it. Here's how you say it. And you know what? Enough of me.
Yeah.
Let's see a learner using the language in context.
Right.
So you can see our students out there on this saying, what are you grateful for? As for me, and they're sharing their own opinions. They're asking, how do you feel about Valentine's Day? Or what are your thoughts about International Women's Day? And you can hear our students actually using language that they've learned in context, right? And so, for me, when I do videos online, it's like one or two sentences that I'm teaching, and that's it. Because there's only so much the human brain can actually take in.
I do the opposite.
At the time,
I just do the pattern that's always true.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So you can answer in one-word sentences. What are you grateful for? Kids, food, roof, safety. There is no perfect answer.
Right.
And you can elaborate on that if you like, but it has to be safety.
Right.
Safety is in it.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So I'm a pattern girl, for sure.
So millions of different ways to get at this, but experiential is the key in a sense.
Part of
Or
it.
Doing
Part of the
part
key.
of it.
Part of
Part
the
of it.
puzzle. For me, it's a big part of our program and how we get students out of their comfort zone
Right.
to just get out there connecting with people and using the language.
It's the autonomy. It's
Right.
being able to function with what you've learned. Yeah, and experiential is.
So a lot of it's psychological and just
Part of
feeling
it.
like I can make mistakes. It
A
doesn't matter.
lot of it's unlearning.
Unlearning. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
you
have
have
to
to
be
take
perfect.
away the barrier.
Right.
Why don't you speak English now? Grammar, my accent. What if I don't have enough
Right.
vocabulary? Something like that. And when you take away what's stopping them, boof. Then they go,
You have to get into
that
it. Who
wasn't
cares?
real.
At least I'm trying. And people will appreciate that versus the silence.
And it's
yeah.
culturally different.
True.
A Spanish speaker is much more comfortable making a mistake and generous with other people's mistakes.
Yes.
Yes,
Than
and
French
other
speakers,
cultures
right.
less.
Yes.
Less so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
Definitely. A lot of,
So
lot of patterns.
it matters where they come from.
Okay. So anything last that we need to cover? Or do we wrap this up? What have we got here? You looking for something?
Oh, I wanted to say
Yeah.
before we left
Yeah.
that teachers are amazing. So and they're stuck in the middle. So they have really horrible training, and they're it's a vocation, and they work hard and they really care with really horrible resources. Anything that happens in school is because of the teacher's own creativity and their own commitment. So when people hear me trash education and they take offense, you go, it isn't the teachers. My heart breaks for
It's
them.
a system.
Yeah.
So if you were to give one piece of advice for present ESL teachers, what would it be?
Join the Language Coaching Association, which we're trying to make and develop.
So join the Language Coaching Association.
Something like that,
And what else?
Well, get on the internet because there are answers out there, and be really careful of super marketed, glitzy. There's a lot of new programs that have just digitized garbage. This is how I digitize the present continuous.
Right.
That isn't even an English tense.
Right.
That isn't improving. It's about content, better content, and you'll intuit.
Yeah.
Like when I heard him talk in 4 seconds, I thought that'll work. What's working. Your hands are tied. Lots of times
Yes.
they're not that open to you doing something differently. So yeah, I wanted to say that. And think. So the culture of education, it's teach your children how to think, not what to think. We're generations and generations of people who are discouraged from thinking. How do you do that? So how do you think is the new and there's lots of answers for that, but it isn't just dishing out more and more and more canned information. That isn't it. It's transformation. And how do you think? How is this going to work everywhere, even when I'm not in the classroom? That's really fun.
Yeah. For
What
me,
else have you got?
I mean, the last thing is based on basically what you just said is the autonomous learning part. When a student can walk away after our program saying, I know how to do this on my own now.
And I don't have to be perfect. It's going to work.
Yeah.
I'm going to be okay.
Because we coach them, they find their interest in the language. So we had a girl last month, all she did was just go to dog parks and talk to dog owners. And she ended up walking dogs every day with someone,
There
and
you
she had
go.
so much fun.
I almost said that when you said videos, because there's such a wide,
Right.
you can pick a video, and that's in the assessment.
Mhm.
What are your interests? And we can talk about that if you like. So
yeah.
lights them up. And yeah, there's a little carrot there. Yeah. Because it works the same everywhere.
Right.
You can talk about what you want to talk about.
Yeah.
It never changes. It works like this.
I was just thinking of Ondaatje's book, In the Skin of a Lion, where he talks about immigrants came to Toronto and how did they learn English? Well, they went to see the same movie over and over and
That's
over and
it.
over again.
There you go.
And then through that, they'd start learning. And
Yeah.
he talks about that. It was pretty interesting because you're sort of saying.
Jackie Chan learned from singing Willie Nelson songs. Like, asked him.
There you go.
And because it's my passion, I've asked these questions more than 1,000 times. Every time a non-native speaker speaks well, and it doesn't matter if they're a call center, it doesn't matter if they're a server, I say, your English is amazing, how did you learn it? So far, not one person has said school, not one.
So what's the most popular answer? Or some of them?
Boyfriend is one,
Boyfriend.
I got a job
Right.
is another one, yeah. Immersion, I went to an
Immersion.
English-speaking country,
Right.
those are the top three, for sure.
If you surround yourself with the language all the
Right.
time,
It's going to happen.
I spoke to 2 Brazilians who learned online. And that was amazing. So there's some online program out there that people are
Yeah,
functional in English.
Duolingo is pretty popular. And
Well, popular, Rosetta Stone, this is popular,
Yeah.
not good.
yeah.
and
This is
think
over
there's-
marketing
Yeah,
again.
over marketing. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is definitely some validity to online learning platforms. It's just my whole business is like, well, great, you're comfortable with someone online. You're comfortable with a one-on-one tutor in Starbucks. And what happens when you need to use real-life language when you step outside of that comfort zone? So that's a big thing that we try and get them used
Right.
to, is that outside of their comfort zone.
Get them used to failure, because it's
Yeah.
going to happen.
They
It's just
experience
messy.
it.
Learning a language is
That's-
messy.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
fortify
that's
them for the
Yeah.
truth.
Well, there's the truth. to
It's
everything.
gonna be.
Yeah,
You're
gonna
gonna
be
screw
messy,
it up,
but you're gonna do it. Just
and
stick
you're gonna
with
be
it and you're gonna
fine.
get it. Yeah, you're
That's
good.
right.
Good.
And
All right.
people admire people learning a language, or admire when. So we don't judge them badly. We just revere them. You go, wow, I don't know any other languages, or it's not what you think. People are generous.
Definitely. Okay, so there you go. These are the answers. There's so many, but they're doable, and our ESL students shouldn't give up hope and just get out there and get messy,
Get
out
messy.
there,
Yeah.
get messy,
Get messy.
fail, fall down,
fall down,
join on the spot language.
join on the
no,
spot
there you go.
language.
And Judy's got these series of books which are phenomenal. If you're anyone just wanting to learn how to teach other people, even a language, whether it be pronunciation,
They were written for Syrian refugee hosts.
fluency,
So an accountant,
conversation.
a secretary, a nurse, and they've taken this family, and they're very often empty nesters. So they have a big house, and they've taken in a whole family. Amazing. Have no idea to help them. So if you have no language teaching background
Right.
at all, what
This
do you
is
do? And it's
So
pretty
there it is.
simple. It's right
Nice.
there.
It's not a
Pronunciation,
Bible. It's not a
conversation,
big
fluency.
book. It's literally gives you step
No
by step
jargon.
of.
The
Where do
exercise-
people find these? How do they get in touch with you?
Backpackersenglish.com.
Boom, just like that.
Done.
Backpackersenglish.com. It's a bit of a joke. 'Cause
Okay.
backpackers, but travelers are the people
Yeah.
that they ask,
Yeah.
right?
That's how
It
you
works
learn.
for backpackers.
Yeah.
Works for refugee hosts.
Sure.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
works for anybody.
There
Thank
go.
you so much for coming
Yeah.
on the show, Judy. This has been
Thank
a pleasure
you.
to have
Yeah.
you on. This is great. It's been a dream to
Good.
get Judy on the show at some point, and been
And
on
there we
several
are.
times. And thank you for.
Yeah, we'll
hosting
enhance the get the government thinking differently here, perhaps if they're going to
Shame
watch
them
it.
into it.
Shame them into it. It's got to change. It's got to change. There is a crisis somewhere. So
I think it's changing
Yeah.
fast, and I think it's the internet saying
Yeah.
this is working, this is working, this is working. How do we add what's working?
right. Great. All right.
All right.
Until next time, let's hope we have a lot of students for you guys, and on the spot language, grows and grows and grows, and your program grows, and this will be great.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
thank
much.
All right.